Hello and welcome to AWS Certified DevOps Professional course. In this video, we are going to discuss about code deploy and code pipeline. In last video, as we discussed how to commit a code by using AWS Code Commit service. So this video is just an extension of code commit. We will be using code deploy and code pipeline here to deploy the code and to pass it to mm, the resulting servers, the servers which will be affected by this continuous integration and continuous deployment model. So, as AWS described code deploy as a service that automates code deployments to any instance, including Amazon EC2 instances and instances running on premises. So it just generally make it easier for you to rapidly release new features and help you to avoid downtime during application deployment. So this just handle the complexity and ease the process of software deployments. However, the code pipeline is a continuous integration and continuous delivery service for fast and reliable application infrastructure updates. Code pipeline builds, tests, and deploys your code every time there is a code change based on the release process model you define. So what happens here is like if some code is changed at the source level, so the code deploy will automatically detect that it will get to know that there is a change in code at the source, and it will fetch the change uh, to its window, and then it will push to the pipeline, and from there it will be pushed to the affected servers. So this is how the code deploy and code pipeline work together, and they take some help from the code repository as well. So it can be a GitHub, AWS Code Commit, or AWS S3. So going forward in this video, we will be uh, dealing with the practical scenario of this and how to use code deploy and code pipeline for automating the deployment process. So let's move on to the AWS console. So we have uh, code deploy, code pipeline, and EC2 service, S3 service. So what we are going to do here is we will launch two web servers, and they will be fetching their configuration files from AWS Code Commit. We can use S3 bucket as well, GitHub for the code repository, so that also will do the job. But here we will be using AWS Code Commit service for as a code repository, and we will deploy code deploy. So as you can see in this diagram, the developers will make changes and updates to the code, and it will be fetched into the code pipeline, and there the code deploy and code pipeline will do a deployment of the code, the new code, to the production servers or dev servers or the group of servers which are in concern. So this is how the whole pipeline, code pipeline works. So it will be, the code will be first committed, and then it will go to build stage, then staging, and then production, and ultimately it will go to the customers. So this is how the pipeline works, and now we will move on to the practical of this. So first of all, we need to build we are building a web server, and we will be we will be using AWS Code Commit as source repository, and we will launch two EC2 servers to launch AWS Linux AMIs servers. So we will launch two web servers, and we will use code deploy, code pipeline, and AWS Code Commit. So let's proceed with the EC2 instances first, because they will take some time to launch. So I'll just go to the EC2 service, and I will launch two instances for web server. So I'll select Amazon Linux AMI. This is freeware, free one. So I'll go to configure instance details. Number of instances I need, 2 web servers. VPC is fine. Subnet I will select. Okay, but before that we have to use 2 services. We have to create 2 roles. So the 2 roles I have already created, but I will show you how you can create at your own. So I'll just go to IAM and I will show you the role which I have created already. So as you can see, I have already deployed 2 roles, the CD instance role and CD service role. So the CD instance role is for allowing EC2 instances to call AWS services for code deploy and code pipeline. And CD service role, it will allow code deploy to access other AWS services. So these are just roles which will be having access to call other services, which will be used to deploy the web server. So I've already created this role. Let me show you the policy document. So this is the role, and I if I show you the policy, it says it has access to S3, and the effect is allow resources all. So this will have access to S3 bucket, and other one is CD service role. So if I show you the policy document, it's having it is having all the access to EC2 services. So you can just select this code deploy role. It will get all the policies that we need. And similarly for CD instance role, from instance you can select the Amazon EC2 role for AWS code deploy, this policy, and this will be enough to run this web server deployment. So now we have network subnet, and we will select the CD instance role because we want our instances to access some of the services. So that is done, and now we'll go to advanced detail, and we will add some bootstrap scripts so that it will install whatever is required for the web server, the prerequisites. So if you see the bootstrap code, it's installing the AWS CLI, it's installing Apache, that is HTTPD service, and it's downloading the code deploy agent, and it will install it as well.